theories in an impeachment inquiry that has not turned up a shred of evidence of wrongdoing by the president. At the same time, the House Committee on Homeland Security held its first official hearing on the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, another inquiry completely devoid of fact, with articles of impeachment reportedly imminent in that committee. I do not know whether the chairman of this committee deliberately waived our jurisdiction on impeachment to another committee, or if Republican leadership simply took it away from him in an effort to appease the most extreme members of the MAGA conference. But the decision sets a terrible precedent. Either way, the decision is a sad commentary on the priorities of the Republican majority. They seem not to care what they break or how they diminish the House Judiciary Committee, while they ignore the real challenges facing the American people. They continue to focus solely on fruitless investigations because they have no plan for meaningful reform to the immigration system or any idea how to address any of the other problems facing our nation. Instead of working with Democrats towards reasonable, workable, bipartisan changes to the immigration system, Republicans will return to their tired playbook and use this subcommittee to demonize immigrants. We will hear in an argument largely devoid of facts and wrong on the law that immigrants are a drain on public benefits rather than the lifeblood of this country. As President Reagan said, quote, "Thanks to each wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we're a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier," close quote. By and large, undocumented immigrants are not eligible for federal benefits. In fact, undocumented immigrants pay into benefits they will never be eligible to receive themselves. Because of this, immigrants, both documented and undocumented, pay billions more into public benefits programs than they will ever get back. They are subsidizing the public. While federal benefits are not available to undocumented immigrants, some states, like my home state of New York and the chairman's home state of California, choose to offer the same state benefits to everyone in their state, regardless of immigration status. That is their choice, and Congress has no say in how states choose to utilize their tax dollars. To the extent that localities like New York City face challenges in caring for immigrants arriving from the southern border, many of these challenges stem in large part from the desire of Texas Governor Abbott to sow chaos by refusing to coordinate with local officials and by choosing instead to use migrants as pawns in his political games. I am proud of New York City's history of welcoming new immigrants. We can and we will continue to do so. In fact, I was pleased to see Mayor Adams announce just yesterday that he is reversing all anticipated budget cuts for the NYPD, the FDNY, and likely the library, school, and other social services programs as well, which he had originally said were needed due to the arrival of migrants in New York. Congress should help, however, by providing additional resources, by passing bipartisan legislation to help ease the transition for many migrants, by ensuring that they could access work authorization more quickly, and by taking up other bipartisan reforms to the immigration system. But time and time again, House Republicans have stood in the way of progress, of innovation, and of compromise. Instead, they insist they will only consider draconian policies that essentially destroy the asylum and refugee programs, policies that stand no chance of passage in the Senate, which shows that they are not interested in real solutions. Real solutions require compromise, and MAGA Republicans aren't interested in compromise. Real solutions rarely get you hits on Fox News or Newsmax, and they won't get you Donald Trump's endorsement. Enforcement alone cannot fix our immigration system. We know this because that approach has largely failed for 3 decades. People didn't stop coming when President Trump and Stephen Miller imposed the cruelest immigration policies imaginable. They didn't stop coming when Governor Abbott lined the Rio Grande with deadly buoys covered in razor wire. They have not stopped coming even with record levels of removals and repatriations and funding for immigration enforcement. We need to expand legal pathways, mitigate push factors, tamp down on corruption, and implement smart border security measures. We have to come together to find solutions that actually work and break free from the partisan entrenchments that have kept us stuck in the past. We will need more border control agents, more asylum agents, and more immigration judges so that asylum cases can be adjudicated in weeks, not in years. And we need immigrants in this country. Forget the fact that the farm, that our vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many immigrants, many illegal immigrants. The fact is that the birth rate in this country is way below replacement level, which means our population is going to start shrinking. And the ratio of people on Social Security and Medicare is going to increase relative to the number of people supporting them. This is a problem faced by every major country in the world. Few countries, however, have the means to solve this problem through immigration. People want to immigrate to the United States. They do not want to immigrate to China or Russia. We are very lucky in that respect, and we should promote it and regulate it properly rather than denounce it ignorantly. Sadly, based on the track record of the 118th Congress so far, I don't think that will be happening anytime soon. I thank the witnesses for appearing before us today, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Well, the gentleman has no time to yield back, and as content as I am in allowing the Democrats to make our case for us, I do want to warn them we'll be enforcing the 5-minute limit on opening statements in the future.
Point of order, there are no limits on opening statements in this committee, Mr. Chairman.
There's a 5-minute limit in the House rules, Mr. Chairman. Without objection, all opening statements will be included in the record, and I'll now introduce today's witnesses. We have with us today Chief Manuel Mello III. He's the chief of the fire department in Eagle Pass, Texas, a position he's served in for nearly a decade. Chief Mello started with the fire department in 1992 and has 35 years of experience serving his community. In May 2023, the Texas House of Representatives passed a resolution honoring Chief Mello for his decades of service to Eagle Pass. Our second witness is Mr. Greg Chen. He's the Senior Director of Government Relations for the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Mr. Chen graduated from Harvard College and received his law degree from NYU Law School. Our third witness is Steve Camarota. He's the Director of Research for the Center for Immigration Studies and has written extensively on the economic, fiscal, and demographic impact of immigration. Dr. Camarota holds a master's degree in political science from the University of Pennsylvania and earned a doctorate in public policy analysis from the University of Virginia. And finally, we have with us Ms. Daniela Souza Egoroff. Ms. Souza Egoroff is Vice President of the Community Education Council for New York City School District 2 in Manhattan. She holds a master's in public policy analysis from the University of Virginia. Oh, pardon me, a degree in public policy from the Harvard Kennedy School. Ms. Egoroff also is currently the project director for Parent Powered New York. A legal immigrant from Brazil, Ms. Souza Egoroff lives in New York City with her family. We welcome our witnesses. We thank you for appearing today, and we'll begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Great. Thank you very much. Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. And you may be seated. Please know your written testimony will be entered into the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we'd ask that you summarize your testimony in 5 minutes, and we will begin with Chief Mello.
Chairman Clintock, Ranking Member Jay Appel, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today on the impact of illegal immigration on social services, and especially the fire department, our fire department. Eagle Pass Fire Department. The Maverick County is located approximately 140 miles southwest of San Antonio, Texas. Eagle Pass is the county seat and borders the city of Piedras Negras, Coahuila, Mexico, just across the Rio Grande River. Both cities share approximately 120 miles of precious river. We have a population of approximately 70,000, which includes the city and the county, and a fluctuating population of approximately 5,000 to 10,000 additional visitors to the community at any given time. The fire department is a small department with 3 stations located strategically within the city limits. Each station has 6 members, 6 firefighters on a daily basis, trained in EMS, paramedics, or basic EMS, or EMTs. Total personnel for the fire department are 52 on-shift firefighters and 10 support staff. 12 of the personnel are cross-trained in swiftwater rescue and are divided into 3 team members per shift. The Eagle Pass Fire Department is the main 911 EMS provider in the community. We respond to 7,500 EMS calls on a yearly basis. All of our emergency ambulance transfers go straight to the only hospital, which is Fort Duncan Medical Center, which has 18 emergency room beds. Aside from EMS, the Eagle Pass Fire Department also responds to grass fires, house and commercial building fires, and all motor vehicle accidents on 2 major highways and several farm to market roads within our county. The nearest fire department in case of a mutual aid is 1 hour away if available. In 2020, when the migrant influx started to increase, we were below staffing due to different reasons, such as personnel retiring or personnel leaving due to demands of the job, while others left to seek better employment and benefits. Since then, we started a more aggressive employment strategy because of the demand. In 2023, EMS transports increased to over 9,000 calls for assistance. Approximately 10% were migrant-related. Our drownings pre-2020 were approximately 8 to 12 per year. As of December 2023, we had recorded 43 migrant body recoveries for that year. These body recoveries include men, women, and children ranging from 2 months to 15 years old. As a witness to many incidents, I am here to tell you we are being overwhelmed with EMS calls and body recoveries. In my 32 years of service, I had not experienced this many calls. There are days it seems that the ambulance wails never stop. Going to the river or areas along the river's edge where the crossings are frequent has become a norm for us with little or no help from anyone, not even the federal government. I have attached a summary of an incident so you can have an idea of what my men and women go through. This is a summary of 2 Nicaraguan children that drowned in the Rio Grande River by Eagle Pass, Monday, August 22nd, 2022. First call came in approximately at 12:59 p.m. An EMS unit and a swiftwater rescue team responded to the incident located underneath one of the Eagle Pass Piedras Negras International bridges by the Rio Grande River. Upon arrival, Border Patrol were performing CPR on a 3-month-old infant. This patient was transported to Fort Duncan Medical Center with a faint pulse. This infant was later transported to University Hospital in San Antonio in critical condition, where he later died. As the first patient, the 3-month-old, was being treated at Fort Duncan Medical Center, the second 911 call came in at 13:37 for a 3-year-old. An additional ambulance and crew responded with the swiftwater rescue team to the same area where the first patient had been located. On arrival, the EMS crews were advised by Border Patrol that the infant child, or the child, was related to the infant and had crossed the river at the same time with family members. He was a 3-month-old baby brother. EMS crews were directed to a pickup truck where the body of the child had been placed prior to EMS arrival. All efforts to revive had ceased due to the length of time the patient had been underwater. The child had last been seen at approximately 12:45. Based on the presentation and time of the patient underwater, it was determined child had expired. This is just one of many incidents. For example, the mother and the daughter that were walking on the side of a major highway, both struck and killed by a vehicle during a rainstorm. The countless children dehydrated or with hypothermia and in shock that are transported to the hospitals. Young ladies going into labor as soon as they cross the river. And other incidents, including the rail car accidents where amputations are common.
I'm afraid your time's expired, but we'll get back to the points you want to make during the question and answer session. I'm next pleased to recognize Mr. Chen, the Democratic invited witness, for 5 minutes.
Chairman McClintock, Ranking Member Jayapal, and members of the subcommittee, I am Greg Chen, the Senior Director of Government Relations for the American Immigration Lawyers Association. The good news is that immigrants have helped make America stronger and more prosperous, and every day they contribute to its future. To ensure the nation's prosperity, Congress must overhaul the immigration system to meet the country's needs. First, the federal government should address unprecedented refugee flows worldwide that have pushed more people to the U.S. borders. The federal government must ensure the orderly, efficient, and fair processing of migrants. Congress should adequately fund federal agencies to screen cases more quickly, to guarantee protection for people who are eligible for legal relief, and to remove those who are not eligible in a safe and humane manner. Essential to a fair and efficient process is ensuring that everybody in the process has legal representation. Nationwide city officials and local service providers are welcoming arriving immigrants. Some cities are experiencing real challenges and need more federal support. Congress should approve what mayors of both political parties are asking for, and that is an increase for FEMA's Shelter and Services Program, SSP, that funds short-term services. To help cities, governments must also coordinate and share information better. Unannounced buses filled with people are political stunts that make it harder for cities to welcome arrivals. Another critical step is getting work permits for migrants who are eligible to work as soon as possible so they can achieve self-sufficiency. To speed up the work permit process, last fall, government officials set up emergency clinics with volunteer ALA members and other NGOs. The federal government should take more steps like this to get more people working. Importantly, effective migration management will not be achieved by focusing only on the border. Congress must also address systemic delays at all immigration agencies, particularly USCIS, the immigration courts, and consulates abroad. The months and years-long delays in nearly every immigration category exacerbate bottlenecks in border processing. The delays even compel people with approved visas for immigrant categories to come to the border. Some people think the United States should turn away immigrants at the border and restrict immigration. That would be a mistake. The overwhelming evidence shows that immigrants provide enormous benefits to the United States. They are a huge engine of economic growth and contribute billions of dollars in federal, state, and local taxes annually. They consume far less per capita in public benefits than U.S. citizens. Ultimately, it is the ineffective immigration system, not immigrants, that hold back the nation's growth. Congress's inability to update immigrant visa numbers are hurting families and businesses. American families now suffer prolonged waits, months, even decades, for family visas. American businesses across industry sectors are experiencing historic labor shortages. They need people to fill positions that cannot be filled by U.S. workers. In 2022, Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, said labor shortages are partly caused by, quote, a plunge in net immigration. In Florida, a lack of workers has forced farmers to cut back production. The Republican governors of Utah and Indiana are asking Congress to create legal pathways for more workers to come for their state. Congress can no longer put aside what it has been pushing aside for over 3 decades. It must pass laws that establish adequate legal pathways to meet the country's needs. Congress should also do what the great majority of Americans want, and that is to provide permanent legal status for dreamers and other people who are undocumented. They are contributing every day to this country, and they'll continue to make the nation prosper. Everyone agrees America needs a better functioning immigration system. We need a system that recognizes immigration is vital to our national interest, that secures the nation's continuing prosperity, and that ensures a fair and orderly border processing system. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next witness is Dr. Camarota.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for inviting me to testify on the impact of illegal immigration on public services. Allowing widespread illegal immigration raises profound concerns across a host of issues, from public safety and national security to the impact on American workers and the rule of law. While these impacts are all important, I'm only going to focus on the fiscal impact and the impact on public services today. Now, one of the main reasons we're here is that the current surge of illegal immigration appears to be unprecedented. I've estimated that the illegal population since President Biden took office has grown by nearly 3 million, and that's not the number of new illegal immigrants. That's the number, that's the net increase, which is always offset by legalizations, out-migrations, and natural mortality. The number of new additions is much higher. Now, why do illegal immigrants pay less in taxes than they use in services and create a fiscal drain? The reason is pretty simple. It's because such a large share have modest levels of education, resulting in relatively low average incomes and tax payments, coupled with significant use of many public benefits. Prior research indicates that 69% of adult illegal immigrants have no education beyond high school, compared to about 35% of the U.S.-born population. The fiscal drain illegal immigrants create is not because they are freeloaders who all came to get welfare. That would be a mistake to think that way. Nevertheless, the National Academy of Sciences estimate of immigrants' fiscal impact by education level, using that, we estimate that the lifetime fiscal drain, all taxes paid, all services used, for illegal immigrants, given their education profile, is about $68,000. Some of the largest costs are things you might guess: welfare programs, public education, and treatment for the uninsured. Based on the survey of income and program participation, we estimate that 59% of households headed by illegal immigrants use one of the major welfare programs, compared to 39% for U.S.-born households. Use of these programs likely totals by illegal immigrants about $42 billion a year. Now, some may wonder, how is that possible? Aren't illegal immigrants banned from all these programs? First, illegal immigrant families can receive welfare on behalf of their U.S.-born children, and more than half of illegal immigrant families have U.S.-born children. Also, illegal immigrants under the age of 18 are allowed to receive a number of programs directly, like free school meals and WIC. Illegal immigrants can also receive Medicaid directly under some circumstances, and many states go further in providing more access to Medicaid. Some states also provide food stamps to illegal immigrants, and also, I'll add, several million illegal immigrants have work authorization and valid Social Security numbers, allowing them to receive the Earned Income Tax Credit. The high rate of welfare use by illegal immigrants is not explained by an unwillingness to work. That's critically important. We estimate 94% of all illegal immigrant households have at least one worker, compared to only 73% of U.S.-born households. But it is critically important to remember that welfare use and work go together. In fact, the majority of illegal immigrants and U.S.-born households using the welfare system have a worker. And the nation's welfare system is designed specifically to help low-wage workers with children. Now, in addition to welfare, we estimate about $68 billion in costs for educating illegal immigrants and their children, and about $7 billion in costs for treating the uninsured. Now, my estimate is actually higher than the one cited by Congresswoman Jayapal. I estimate that just to the federal government, illegal immigrants pay about $26 billion a year in income tax, but also Social Security and Medicaid. It's just nowhere near enough even to cover their use of the welfare programs. Finally, illegal immigration does make the U.S. economy larger. I've estimated at least, and this is a minimum estimate, $300 billion larger because they're here. But this is not a measure of their contribution, nor is it a measure of a benefit to the U.S.-born. Almost all the increase in economic activity goes to the illegal immigrants themselves in the form of wages, as it should, since they're the ones doing the work. Now, if we do not enforce our laws and instead allow illegal immigration to continue unabated, the strain on public services will continue to grow, resulting in either higher taxes or cuts in services to American citizens, many of whom are often quite poor. Many cities across America are dealing with this reality right now, even as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we have with us Ms. Sosa Egorov. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Daniela Souza Igorov. I'm an immigrant from Brazil.
You have to talk.
Thank you. My name is Daniela Souza Igorov. I'm an immigrant from Brazil. My husband is an immigrant from Ukraine, and my husband's relatives are war refugees here in the U.S. under the United for Ukraine program. New York City is our home. I believe legal immigration has made New York one of the best cities in the world. But the current crisis of open borders and no policy to prioritize who should be allowed to enter our country is threatening New York City. This week, 4,000 students at James Madison High School in Brooklyn were kicked out of their school in the middle of the day to turn the school building into a migrant shelter overnight. This made headlines across the nation, but it is what New Yorkers have been dealing with since this crisis started. Our city has received over 160,000 migrants in the past year, and this has had a devastating impact on the city's finance and social services. In 2023 alone, New York City spent over $5 billion to provide housing and other services for new migrants. Our mayor, Eric Adams, estimates that this will cost $12 billion over the next 3 years. I'm a public school parent and serve as vice president of the Community Education Council for School District 2 in Manhattan. Every day, I hear from my community concerns about the impact of this crisis in our schools. Here are some concrete examples. Last October, Mayor Adams canceled the classes of 250 incoming New York City school safety agents, which are desperately needed in our schools. He said that parents would have to volunteer to keep our schools safe. Principals have little notice about when they will receive a new influx of students. They don't have time to hire ESL teachers and staff to serve them adequately. To balance the budget, New York City will no longer offer preschool for every 3-year-old who needs that in our city. District 75, which serves students with severe disabilities and the most vulnerable population in our schools, will have to cut $1 million per school and reduce staff. This will impact after-school programs, create an even bigger shortage of paraprofessionals. We might put our schools out of compliance with students' special education plans, which are legally binding. Parents in my community cannot understand why the new students were exempt from the vaccines required by the new states, which our students have to take, even though there has already been an outbreak of varicella at a school in our district. But the effects, unfortunately, are not limited to the schools. The elderly were kicked out of their housing to make space for migrant shelters, including a 95-year-old Korean War veteran. The budget cuts to finance this crisis will impact every city agency. Our libraries are not opening on Sundays anymore. The fire department of New York has reduced its head count by more than 50 people. The New York State Comptroller, Thomas DiNapoli, warned that New York City is, quote, teetering on a fiscal cliff, end quote, because of this migrant crisis. Since 1990, no more than 45,000 people were granted asylum in the US per year. But last year, there were 2.5 million border crossings in our southern border. According to the Migration Policy Institute, there are more than 1.3 million asylum applications pending, and it takes on average 4 years to complete the process. New Yorkers want to know, what is the plan to end this crisis? What is the plan? If migrants are receiving letters with an appointment in immigration court to process their asylum in 10 years, in 2030, 2033, will New York taxpayers pay for hotel rooms and shelters over the next decade? We will have to incur $5 billion in expenses every year. How many more services will low-income New York citizens lose to finance this policy? In New York City, nearly 40% of New Yorkers are foreign-born, and 60% live in a household where at least one family was born abroad, like my family. We know exactly why people want to live in such a prosperous